I am die cut crazy, and I get so inspired when I receive unique, innovative dies like these from Spellbinders. In this video, I share 5 different ways to layer and combine scrolled punches, sentiment, and stitching dies, and I could have gone on designing for days. Hello and welcome to Karen's Creative Cards on YouTube. I am Karen Hashik, and I admit I am a die cut addict. Releases like the latest one from Spellbinders only reinforces how much I love to design with dies. All it takes is a couple of these die sets to create these gorgeous layered cards. I use the scrolled punch and pierce die on many of these. Here's one that I made. It creates a gorgeous background, and then these pieces on the inside are popped up, and then I additionally popped up the sentiment die on these pieces here. So I used all 3 of these sets on that card. It's the scrolled punch and pierce, and then it is these sewing dies that are called stitched fans, and there's a couple of them that aren't designed for sewing but for layering, and that's what I use there. And then this sentiment set is called Thanks Enclosed Sentiments. It has 42 different dies. You can say so many things, and you can choose to layer them or not layer them. Of course, it's happy birthday, thanks for everything, this card is full of wishes, or this card is full of love, you are amazing, hello, happy hello, miss you, thank you. If we added up how many sentiments that could be, it's many, many of them. And I used these on all the cards that I'm going to share today. These are the sewing dies called stitched fan sets. And I love to do a little bit of stitching like this, just to add some metallic or variegated highlights to make unique cards. So again, I used the sentiment, this time layered. I did a little bit of sewing on this piece, and then that is the scrolled background. You are amazing. Very, very pretty. Here's another one that I did. Just a little bit of sewing. I love to add sewing highlights to my cards, but to be honest, I don't like to do the whole background. That takes too long. But in this case, I did just a little bit of sewing. It just takes seconds. Added a sentiment and used that pretty background to make that card. Now, of course, all the specifics on all these cards that I share will be on my blog, and links are in the description box to those blog posts and also to the products that I'm featuring. Here's another card that I made. I did a bit more stitching, but I just love how that turned out. I used the DMC metallic copper thread in this case. I've also used gold and another lighter gold on these cards. And that type of thread is available on Amazon, and I'll put a link in the description box to that. So here is Happy Hello with some more stitching and layering. I'm going to show you some tips on how to do sewing on cardstock. So the dies from Spellbinders are so easy to use, and they are the #1 source for dies to sew on cardstock. I suggest that you don't tie a knot like you would if you were using fabric or something, but that you start in a corner, and not only does the die create the holes, but it also creates the lines to tell you exactly where to stitch. So again, really, really, really easy. Even if you've never sewn before, you can do this. What I use to hold that piece of thread down in the back is just a tiny piece of regular tape. You can also use glue if you would like to. I find that a little piece of tape works just great. So I'm going to start in a corner and then I'm going to go down to the center. And then I'm just going to follow the pattern and go to the next one and then continue putting it into the center hole just like the lines tell us to do. You will see that it doesn't take long at all. I find it very relaxing. I tend to cut the pieces and have them ready for a card and then maybe do it at night while I'm watching TV. From that angle, I'm having a little bit of a hard time finding the hole, but that's not typical if you're sitting, you know, with your head right over it. But then you wouldn't see what I was doing. So you try to keep your thread about the same tightness, not too tight, but not real loose either. I didn't figure you needed to watch me do this whole piece, but I thought I would just do one corner of it. I think the metallic thread is the prettiest to use, and I did use DMC for that, but I also used some of the variegated, which what that means is that the color of the thread changes as you go along, and I used the variegated blue on the center part of this arch. I was thinking about ideas of what I could use these beautiful arches for once they were done, and I decided to make a bridge card where I will have an arch on the top and the bottom. And all the patterns I had for bridge cards, the opening in the center was too big for this, so I just started playing around and adjusted the template so that I could have this idea work. So if you ever see a template and the dies that you want to use or whatever elements you want to use, it just isn't working, play around with it, take some paper that you don't care about, and see if you can't make it work. I was able to do that, and I am going to share that template and that card with you. I don't have a lot of this thread left. I'm hoping that I make it to the end. It will be tight, but I think I can do it. Oh, maybe not. I'll take a break and finish that last bit. So I added just that last stitch there, and my beautiful piece is all done. I've added a little tape to hold all the stitches down, and a little red liner tape along the sides and the top, and then this is going to go on the top and bottom of the bridge card. So this is the template that I came up with. Normally, this piece here maybe could go across the whole top, but that wasn't working. So I just put a piece of cardstock 1 inch by 5.5 along the top of this. A bridge card is one that stands up like that, but will lay flat to mail, and I wanted it to be able to fit into this envelope, which is 5.5 by 8, and this is able to do that with the size that I created, and will still highlight all the elements that I wanted to use. So this is 7.5 inches tall, and it's 7.25 inches wide, and it's scored at 1 and 2 on both sides here. So I'm going to show you that, but I thought I would just show you this template too, just in case you wanted to try this version of a bridge card. So I have a piece of cardstock here that is 7 1/4 inches, and I am scoring at 1 inch and at 2 inches. And then I am scoring again at 1 inch. Now I already did part of it because this is my small Scor-Buddy, and I can't do the whole thing, but that's fine. I like keeping this one right by my desk. I have a larger one, but it really doesn't fit to show you anyway. So I just use this one all the time and sometimes turn things around. So we're going to fold down and then up and down and then back up. Did I do that exactly opposite? I did. That's okay. So you can see we have the start of a bridge card here. When you mail this, when it lays flat, one side is down flat and one side is folded, and so that's the way that I want it to be when I add the top and bottom pieces. So I have cut a piece that is 1 inch by 5.5 inches, and I put some strong score tape on the last inch of both sides. This is a little bigger than what I need, but I'd rather have it a little big than a little small, and I'll just trim it off to make it perfect. So I am going to go to the corner of the bottom and then attach that and trim off the excess, and repeat that at the top. Sometimes getting that top off, the hardest part of these. Okay, so we'll flip this around and again go right to the bottom. And trim it off. So as you can see, that's now going to stand up, and it will also lay flat to mail either way. I thought these sides were kind of boring the way they are, even if I do add these elements. So I decided to take Spellbinders Argyle Socks embossing folder and just emboss the white strips here along the side and give it a little more interest and dimension without taking away from the sewing or anything else that I'm going to add. Again, I cut these longer than what I need, but I would prefer to have them a little long than have them a little short. So I will just trim off what I don't need and make it absolutely perfect. And these strips were just 1 inch wide again, and then the 7.5, but it's like I said, they're probably closer to 8. I'll let that set up, and then I'll trim both sides. And as you can see, that just added some dimension but it's still white. So let's trim all this out. So they are ready to go. I am going to add these sewn arches on the top and the bottom. Once again, I have to have it laying like this to attach them, because you need to know that when you stand it up it's going to work. But I do want to make sure that I get them centered, the center of the arch and the center of there. But I think I can line that up without marking it. We'll see. Ah, that totally came off. Like I said, sometimes the hardest part of these cards is to get the liner off the tape. But I do want good strong tape there to hold it in place. It will have to go up and down. I know I could probably use glue, but I'll admit it, I don't always like to wait while it sets up. Sometimes I get too impatient. So I want this centered, but I also want to make sure that it can lay down. So maybe I should mark it. I have a pencil. The center is about there and there. Yeah, once this goes down, it's not coming up, so I think that's a good idea. There, and nope. Giving me grief today. There it goes. And then I lost it again. Come on. There we go. Okay, so let's flip it. And once again, I want to lay it flat, but I want to aim for that mark there with the center of the blue one. Well, this doesn't really matter yet what's top and bottom. I have these that I cut out of copper mirror card to match the copper in that thread. But I just wanted to show you that even if you don't want to do all that sewing, and it doesn't take very long at all, these are beautiful arch dies without that. So I am going to put those on the center of the sides here. I do have a ruler in this case, and the center is 3 3/4. So I am going to mark that on both sides here so that I know I'm pretty much getting them centered. So about here, all the way to the edge. I just thought that was a pretty way to add a little more decoration and a little more of that coppery color. And of course I could have sewn them, but I decided to show that it really isn't necessary, and they're still beautiful to add decoration to our cards. Then, to finish the card, I have die cut. This card is full of love. From that set, I just wanted to show you that these sentiments, the letters themselves are very, very delicate. And Mirror Card doesn't like glue. So what I did was I took my Tonic Studios Craft Perfect double-sided tissue tape, which is double-sided adhesive tape, and I put it on the back of a square of this copper paper. I also did it on some gold. So all the words that you saw, I cut them out of this, and so they become like stickers, and then they stick really easily to the shadows or right to the card. And so now this I can just glue on or use whatever adhesive I want, but I find that a lot easier to do than trying to glue everything, especially when they're so delicate, and especially when I want to use Mirror Card. So I'm just going to lay these out. So it looks pretty good, right? We can see all of it, and then start gluing them on. I have great fun with sentiment dies, and this set you can just say so many things. And I love ones that have a shadow, that you can choose to use the shadow or not use the shadow. So I highly recommend this set of sentiment dies. And I could have said thank you for everything. I mean, there was all sorts of things that I could have said, but I decided to say this card is full of love. But it could be birthday wishes or happy birthday wishes. And I don't have to, but if I used some different colors, I could have made this a Valentine, but I guess Valentines don't have to be red and pink. So there, our bridge card is done. It stands up for display. It lays flat to mail, and it has the beautiful sewn highlights on the top and the bottom, and more copper there. And I just love how this card turned out, and I'm loving all these cards I easily created with the new release of dies from Spellbinders, and I hope my cards inspire you to give some of these ideas and products a try. Watch the next video for some more die cut ideas, and find some time soon to have a play.